assemble. I'm Matt. Good to have you here. Let's talk about the draft. Night 2 of the draft, Monday Night Raw. And was it good? Did it fail for you? Was it okay? Was it average? What did you think overall of the draft as a whole thing had it for the 2 nights? Because Friday Night SmackDown, if we look back just a second here, Friday Night SmackDown, night 1 of the draft, really didn't feel like it had anything of consequence. People didn't really feel like it did too much, that it was a little boring, it was stale, predictable. I heard it all. I thought it was very, very average at best coming out of Friday, and I had high hopes for Monday because we have a 3-hour show, we had more rounds, and I thought they had more of the roster to be able to work with, plus the supplemental draft. But we did find out the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, out of this entire draft coming out of Monday Night Raw, and that is Odyssey Jones is in fact drafted to Monday Night Raw. Again, he didn't do anything last year, did he? He was also drafted last year to Raw. I hope he actually wrestles. I have high hopes for the man. He's great. But let's talk about Monday Night Raw's Draft Night 2. Did it do what it needed to do in terms of delivering something that was exciting and getting fans really invested? For me, it was kind of a mixed bag at best. When I was watching live, I felt like every round was very predictable. They didn't do a whole heck of a lot. There are some bright spots that we are going to talk about and get into though. So let's start off with round 1. First overall draft pick, Monday Night Raw for night 2 of the whole thing, Imperium. But this is Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser, no Giovanni Vinci. He's out of there. He's gone now. So we did get Imperium staying on Monday Night Raw. Kind of wish that Imperium was going to be moving over to SmackDown to try and freshen things up. But you know what? If I'm going to get Gunther maybe in the world title scene, definitely want him there because I don't see anybody beating Cody anytime soon. Kaiser, also, are they going to put them in a tag team maybe? Or are they going to recruit new members to Imperium? But I do like how this is shaping up for Mr. Gunther. There's more for him to do, I think, now beyond the IC title and get into the world title scene. SmackDown selects Jade Cargill. Here's the thing with the draft, and I know it's all within WWE storyline. It's all made up. They can do it however they want to do it. But the thing that I find kind of funny is that when they do these draft picks, they make certain stars feel like it's a new thing. Like SmackDown's getting Jade Cargill. She was already signed over to SmackDown not like a month ago, it feels like. So it wasn't any big thing that they were getting Jade. So Jade and Bianca both staying on SmackDown, and they're probably going to continue their dominance as a tag team. Jade needs more time on TV in singles matches. She needs to do big singles matches and not just squash matches. Hopefully they can elevate her. Didn't see her getting shaken up and moving over to the Raw though. But a big shake up, one that is of substantial, note, is going to be Damage Control. All of Damage Control is now on Monday Night Raw. So we get the Kabuki Warriors, we get Dakota Kai, Io Sky, tag team titles. They're all on Monday Night Raw. The tag team titles for the women, they can go cross brand. So if they want to move them over, they can. But I think it's a good opportunity for Io and Dakota to actually branch out a little bit more and get over to the world heavyweight title if they want to do that. They really need a women's mid-card title. Triple H, you got to do it. You got the North American Women's Championship. You need a women's intercontinental title or something because you have stacked rosters and you can't put them all in tag team titles. And that's kind of the problem here. But I do think that having Io and Dakota is good. It can help rejuvenate and liven things up when it comes to the women's division, especially if Rhea comes back and inevitably wins the title. Her versus a heel Io, those could be banger matches that you could get out of that feud. There's more they could do with Dakota and the rest of Damage Control on Raw. And then the SmackDown keeps Kevin Owens. So Kevin Owens and Randy are going to keep doing RKOs and stunners. Kevin Owens has flipped a lot of brands over the years. And you know what? He's a great top babyface that you can do. You can also turn him heel at some point. I just don't know what you're going to do with Kevin Owens now, even long term for this year. He could go and fight Cody. He could be a good challenger for Cody because there's a lot of story there. I guess eventually you're going to want to have the Randy Kevin Owens story and have them go at it. So maybe that's the idea, but no big movements there. Now, round 2, you got your boy CM Punk, which, by the way, in the world of WWE storyline, how is CM Punk not drafted number 1 overall? He brought him in. He's just huge fanfare. He's the biggest guy. You can't draft the champions. You got CM Punk on night 2 in round 2. But anyways, CM Punk stays on Monday Night Raw. Not a surprise. Later, we find out Drew McIntyre also is staying on Monday Night Raw. That gives us Drew, Punk, Seth, still able to do their storyline on Raw, and they could inevitably go after the world title at some point. thought Punk's whole segment with Drew all night long, I thought that was awesome. I thought that was so entertaining. But Punk being on Raw, not a surprise there. SmackDown keeps the Pride, which they're officially named the Pride. So we get Bobby Lashley, Street Profits, B-Fab, all staying on SmackDown. This, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, I mean, I'm glad that the big thing is they split the tag team titles. So it's going to give opportunities for Street Profits to go after the belts. I'm glad that they moved a lot of the different factions off of SmackDown, moved them all around. So they did make movement there. I just feel like you got to do something, especially with Bobby Lashley. He's coming out of this whole thing with Final Testament. Bobby's got to get into that title picture or the US title once again and get the Profits going after tag belt. Braun Strowman showed up again. He's huge. He's just a mountain of a beast. But Braun Strowman is back and he is drafted to Monday Night Raw where he was before. This is part of the problem with the draft for a lot of people, I think. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get through the entire thing, plus all of the social media ones that they announced for the supplemental draft. Braun Strowman being one of those people that he was always on Raw. Now he's still on Raw. Okay, so now what? Hopefully he's going to be in some kind of Uncle Howdy program because that's what I want to see. Braun showed up, made Logan Paul make a weird face, and then here we are. And then they ended round 2 with Tiffany Stratton staying on SmackDown. Round 2 had no changes. And that, again, that is part of the problem with this draft is they didn't, in that exact round, nobody changed brands. So what was the point? I think in round 2, they could have done a better job by including maybe an NXT star getting drafted, called up, but they needed a switch there because it was just a waste. Round 3, the LWO is moving from SmackDown over to Monday Night Raw, but this also includes Carlito, which seems odd because if you look at Imperium, they kicked out Giovanni Vinci, so he was not drafted with Imperium, but Carlito turned his back on LWO like a week ago, but they still drafted him together as part of the LWO. So I don't know. Stuff like that doesn't make much sense, but it's going to continue that storyline of Carlito and the rest of the LWO. I mean, you got Dom on Raw, spoilers, but Raw keeps JD McDonough, Dom, and Finn Balor. You're going to probably get the Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio match once again. Maybe that's going to be the next WrestleMania and they could kind of do a final one there. And you know what? They're doing Dominic with Liv and that whole story. So, and Mami. So they're going to be doing stuff, but LWO, at least they got off of SmackDown so that we're not going to have this constant game of them versus Legado because we found out that Legado del Fantasma, the whole group, is staying on Friday Night SmackDown. So a good split. I think that was warranted. It needed to happen. I want to see what they're going to do with both factions long term though. Raw keeps Drew McIntyre to keep this CM Punk storyline going on, and Drew re-signed with WWE, which is awesome. And Shinsuke Nakamura goes to SmackDown. I actually had Shin pegged to go to like NXT and become like world champion over there. It would have been nice. Want to see what he does on SmackDown? I like Shin's rejuvenated heel character, his persona there. He doesn't pick up wins though. I think he needs to go to SmackDown and get some wins. Him versus Bobby Lashley would be a great program. Maybe they want to put Shin into the US title scene. That could do a lot. Don't do another Cody feud for TV. But Shinsuke Nakamura, great foil, great heel, but they got to do more with him and they got to give him credible wins as well. And then in the next round, I mentioned this, Raw is keeping all of Judgment Day, except for Rhea Ripley has not been drafted because she's injured, just like with Jimmy Uso, not drafted. So we are going to get all the boys are staying on Monday Night Raw. I felt like this could have been a good change if they moved them to SmackDown and broke them up, leaving Damian Priest on Raw by himself. They could still meet up at the PLEs and hang out. But it would have been more interesting, I think, if they moved it around, and especially the champions. Like, I wanted to see Damian Priest on SmackDown with the world title. I thought that could be really cool. But they keep all the Judgment Day running Monday Night Raw. And like I said, Liv, Dom, there's some backstage closet action happening there, so we gotta know what that's all about. Maybe Liv is trying to lure Dom away from Mommy. There's going to be some intrigue into that story. And like I said, Ray is back on Raw, so we can get those two clashing once again. Naomi is drafted or staying on SmackDown, so they're going to continue Bayley and Naomi and Tiffany Stratton all together. They got the triple threat at Backlash. Curious to see how that turns out, what they'll do long term with Naomi. And a big NXT bump up to Monday Night Raw. Ilya Dragunov was drafted to Monday Night Raw. Wasn't a shocker. He was eligible for the draft, and we could see that he was going to be on Raw, and he seemed perfect for Raw. But this does mean that we are going to inevitably get Gunther versus Ilya, and I am excited for that. I don't know if they would add Ilya into Imperium. That could be an interesting combination and then have a turn, or Ilya is just going to come in and go right after him. But I am excited Ilya's getting up there. He did everything he needed to do in NXT. He was there for a while. So I am excited for this draft pick. And then to finish off the round, SmackDown gets Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, the tag team together, moving over to SmackDown. This will be refreshing. I do feel like they're spinning their wheels a little bit with Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. The tag team titles can float across brands. I do kind of want to see Chelsea Green just break out and win, Queen of the Ring or win Money in the Bank and do more. Her and Nick Aldis doing the backstage stuff is going to be a lot of fun, but I do hope that they expand these characters more, but that is a decent move getting them over to SmackDown together. Round 5, New Day stays on Raw. No changes there. Pretty Deadly also stays on SmackDown. No changes there. Kind of wish we saw. I think we just need more of Pretty Deadly. They're very entertaining, but we need more of them on TV. Lyra Valkyria from NXT gets called up to Monday Night Raw. This is great. Shot in the arm for the women's division. She had that fantastic match in NXT against Becky, and I want to see them do that again. There's a lot more pieces now when it comes to the women's division. Hopefully they don't just shove her into a tag team match, but you're gonna have to build her up and get her some credible wins. She could go up against like an Ivy Nile, for example, and start working. And then Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell drafted over to SmackDown. This seems fine. We later find out that DIY has also moved over, which made total sense. As soon as I heard Candice LeRae was getting drafted, I just thought, okay, Johnny is totally going over there too. So they're going to keep them all together. But it does mean that we could get the way even teased. You got A-Town Down Under over there as well. Candice and Indy are trying to do this heel thing. I don't know how well it's going to get over, but they need to do a little bit more with this week to week. And a big one for your boy Matt. I'm a big fan of this gentleman and everything that he is involved in the group, and he may even be watching, you never know. But Final Testament, Karrion Kross and crew, they are all moving over to Monday Night Raw. I'm excited for this because they get out of this minutia, this nothing back and forth feud with the Pride. That finally is over after WrestleMania. They can do new, fresh stuff on Monday Night Raw. I thought they would end up in NXT. They kind of teased it. They were showing up there a bit, but you know what? AOP, go after those tag titles. Karrion Kross, go after the Intercontinental title. Go after the World title. Get into bigger feuds. And you can't have Final Testament losing all the time. You want them to be a credible force that people are scared of on the program week to week. Get them going and get them some wins. And Karrion Kross is a great character. He's in great shape. He can work pretty well in the ring. He's not going to be 5-star matches, but it's an interesting group and dynamic, and I think they just need more wins coming out of these feuds. And like I said, DIY, they are moved over to Friday Night SmackDown. I think this was necessary. DIY, by the way, they need to lose the DX inspired thing. Don't copy it. It's cute and fun for like a PLE thing. They dress up as DX one time, but they're making like their whole thing that like their DX. It's funny, but don't make it your thing. But they're moving over to SmackDown. Again, go after A-Town Down Under. They have a better shot, clearer path, I think, going for those WWE tag team titles and taking them off of A-Town Down Under, possibly. Bronson Reed stays on Monday Night Raw. You could get Odyssey Jones and Bronson Reed teaming up together. That would actually be a lot of fun. Yes, the two giant, just big men. Put them together as heels and they can just dominate in there. And then the last one is going to be for this round is Blair Davenport drafted to SmackDown from NXT. I love seeing all the emotion and the reaction from the NXT crowd because it seems so legitimate and everyone around them is cheering them on and happy for them. And it was great to see someone like Blair. She's an excellent worker in the ring, I think, and hope that they can flush out her character. But I can see her showing up on SmackDown and just start racking up some wins, having a feud with Tiffany Stratton, getting in there and having a match with Bayley would be super fun. There's a lot of cool matches you can do with Blair. So I think it's a good pick and get her out of NXT. So those were the 6 rounds. There's the supplemental draft we'll talk about in a second. Honestly, I found that the supplemental draft was kind of more interesting than the main draft. I didn't think that the main draft worked overall, but let's talk about the main supplemental draft here and those picks. Apollo Crews going over to SmackDown. He was in NXT. Well, he was main roster. Then he went to NXT. Well, he was NXT. Then he went to main roster. Then he went to NXT. And then he went to Raw. Then he's on SmackDown. Hopefully they're going to use Apollo Crews, but it remains to be seen. Giovanni Vinci also going to SmackDown. He broke off from Imperium. It's going to be tricky for Giovanni. If he can use like his NXT character, I'm all for it. So maybe they'll give him something more fun to do. And a clean break from Imperium is good. He's not going to get in a feud with them. So break him off and let him become his own character. Tegan Nox over to SmackDown is good. She broke away from Natalya. They were teaming up, but then they just kind of stopped overall. They weren't doing much more than that. So Tegan Nox, I think, can work her way up in the women's division. She can go and fight Blair Davenport. She can have really good matches, say, against Tiffany Stratton, and just start working her way up. She's kind of like a Becky Lynch in the early days, you know, just kind of working, chipping away up the ladder. Natalya, as you mentioned, was partnered with Tegan Nox. She's gone. Natalya is over on Monday Night Raw. Good to have a veteran over there. Lyra Valkyria versus Natalya. I can probably see that happening in the near future. Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, they are staying on Monday Night Raw, so they do not move anywhere. Odyssey Jones, as we mentioned, fantastic. He's going to be on Raw. Maybe. We'll see. I'm joking, but a big one, a big pick. You know what I'm not joking about? This next pick. Why was this in the supplemental draft? Ladies and gentlemen, this man is just, he owns NXT. He is all about NXT. He should be world champion really, really soon. I'm glad he's at the main roster, but why is this man getting the last rounds in the draft, in the supplemental online? Dijak. Dijak is now going to Monday Night Raw. Great for him. Great time to move up. Get him against Sami Zayn and go have an Intercontinental title match. Get him against Jey Uso. That could be a lot of fun. There's more faces that Dijak could work with. Glad he's over there, but he's got to get into like a title scene because I want to see that. Dijak, great pick. Should have been the regular draft. The Creed brothers, including Ivy Nile, staying on Monday Night Raw. To me, this likely indicates that they're going to be able to do something with Chad Gable. I hope they do a Team Gable, Team Angle thing. By the way, Kurt Angle also like tweeted and teased that like he would like to be the manager for Gable. That would be cool. Then you get Kurt Angle in there just doing ankle locks on everybody. I want to see that. I want to see him break away from Alpha Academy. The Creed brothers in there as heels. It'd be a cool faction. So maybe they're going to do that. And then you got New Catch Republic drafted to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown. Fairly new team together. They were on SmackDown. They had like one PLE together and that was it. And I thought they would stay on SmackDown to do a little bit more and grow their tag team, but they're going to go together over to Monday Night Raw. So maybe see them going up against Judgment Day, but they need to establish more Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne as a formidable tag team. They did a good job at the WrestleMania ladder match. That was a lot of fun. So with the draft overall, we've had two nights. We had SmackDown, we've had Monday Night Raw. A lot of people consider the draft, and even what I see comments online and feedback, is the draft was boring. The draft was predictable. It was uninspiring. It was underwhelming, those types of things. Some people liked it, and like I just went through, there are some high spots for me, and there's also stuff where I'm like, oh, nothing happened. I think one of the big critiques I have for the draft this year as a concept is that one of the things that I think held it back was going to be not having champions being drafted. I think that limited what they were allowed to do and making things look a lot more predictable than if you were to have Damian Priest, for example, drafted to SmackDown. When you look back at Ruthless Aggression in the early 2000s and having the drafts there, the cool moments were the big champions swapping brands, having John Cena, Batista swap brands, having Triple H getting drafted, but then traded back that night for like 3 or 4 draft picks. Those things, those shakeups were fun, entertaining, unexpected. Also having matches to qualify people or matches and the winner gets to pick the next draft pick, that felt more fun. So because of this way they wanted to do more of the sports feel, I get that, and they're really leaning into the sports feel of the show overall. It all fit. But I think one critique I have is that not having champions being eligible for the draft really feels like, okay, well, we know where certain things are going to land, the direction for certain stars and feuds. Just having Cody's there, Roman just says, I'm not going to be drafted because he can say it. You know, it's within the confines of the TV show and what they want to structure. I understand that. It just would have been a lot cooler if they were like, you know, the Intercontinental title is going over to Smack. We're drafting the belts. Sometimes that's more fun. So I can see a little bit of both sides. Some people feeling that the draft was underwhelming. Some feeling that Monday Night Raw, you know what, it ended up being a little bit better. But where do you stand? What do you guys think of the draft overall? How are all the draft picks? What major moves would you have done for this? And if you guys enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I will see you on the next one. Bye.